Everyone feared the abandoned dragon babies, except the human who called them family. They will tell you I was brave. People love that word. They use it like a medal you can pin on someone to explain away the things that do not make sense. But I was not brave. I was just the only person in the room who remembered what it felt like to be small and alone, and hoping that someone, anyone, would come. My name is Marin Holt. I am a combat medic with the Concord Frontier Corps, stationed on Outpost Riven 6, a forgotten little base on a tidally locked moon, where one half burns and the other half freezes, and the thin golden line between them is the only place worth standing. I am not special. I am not a hero. I am a woman who grew up in foster care on Earth, who learned early that the world is full of people willing to walk past a crying child because the paperwork is too complicated. 6 months ago, I walked into the dead zone on a routine salvage patrol, and I heard something that changed everything. We had picked up a signal, old frequency, vyrathi origin, which should have been impossible. The vyrathi were the galaxy's oldest nightmare. Imagine a dragon the size of a building, with scales that could turn plasma rounds, and jaws that could crack a warship apart like a walnut. Their empire had collapsed centuries ago in a civil war called the Scourging, and most of the galaxy considered them gone. Good riddance, everyone said. The universe was safer without them. The signal led us to a crashed incubation pod half buried in volcanic rock. My squad leader wanted to mark it and move on. Standard protocol. But I heard something from inside that pod. Not a roar, not a snarl. A cry. Thin, high, desperate. The kind of sound that reaches past your training and grabs something older and deeper in your chest. I opened the pod. 3 of them. 3 vyrathi hatchlings, tangled together in a nest of broken shells, surrounded by eggs that had not survived. They were starving. The biggest one, dark red with a damaged wing, snapped at the light and then pressed herself over the other 2, protecting them. She was the size of a large dog, and she was already trying to be a shield. The middle one was charcoal gray and so small it hurt to look at her. She was not moving, she was not crying, she was just shaking, pressed into the corner, staring at nothing with those huge amber eyes. The smallest one was blue-green, iridescent, and she looked up at me with a kind of desperate curiosity, like she was trying to decide if I was food or salvation. I reached into the pod. Every species in the galaxy would have told me not to. Every protocol, every directive, every survival instinct written into Concord training manuals said to seal it up and call for a disposal team. The gray one grabbed my hand. Not with her teeth, with her tiny clawed fingers, wrapped around my thumb, holding on like I was the last solid thing in the universe. I named them on the walk back to the outpost. Ember, for the red one who burned with protective fury. Soot, for the gray one who clung to warmth like she had never known it. Spark, for the little blue-green one who kept trying to chew on my bootlaces. The outpost lost its mind. I walked through the main corridor carrying Soot against my chest and leading the other 2 on a makeshift leash made from medical tubing, and you would have thought I had brought a plague through the front door. The Helicoran guards raised their weapons. The Olvani scientists sealed their laboratory. The Kreth maintenance crew, a species built like boulders with legs, refused to enter the entire East Wing. Commander Vasori met me in the corridor, his insectoid face unreadable, his voice perfectly calm, and he said the words I had been expecting since the moment I opened that pod. Concord Directive 1139, unbonded vyrathi hatchlings, were classified as a Class 7 existential threat. The directive was termination within 60 hours, no exceptions, no appeals. I looked at him. I looked down at Soot, who was still holding my thumb. I said, no. He told me it was not a request. I told him it was not a negotiation. Ren Torres, the station engineer and the only other human on Riven 6, helped me barricade the medical bay that night. He sealed the vents, installed backup power, and welded the secondary door shut while muttering that I had finally lost my mind. Then he went back to his workshop and built a heat lamp for the nest because the hatchlings were cold. That is the thing about humans. We will tell you the plan is crazy while we are already helping you do it. The next 48 hours were the longest and the most important of my life. Ember would not let me near her at first. She snapped at me every time I moved too fast, and she caught my forearm once, leaving a row of puncture marks that I cleaned and bandaged without making a sound. I did not flinch. I did not yell. I did not back away. I just sat down on the floor a few feet from her, and I hummed. An old lullaby, the kind that does not belong to any particular mother but somehow belongs to all of them. On the second night, I woke up with Ember's massive head in my lap. She was asleep. Her damaged wing was tucked tight against her body, and her breathing was slow and even, and she looked so young, so impossibly young. I cried, but I did it quietly, because I did not want to wake her. Soot broke my heart in a different way. She would not eat, would not move from her corner. She just stared at the wall with those amber eyes, and I recognized that look, because I had worn it myself at age 7, in a group home on Earth, waiting for someone to come back who was never coming back. I did not try to force her, I just sat next to her, shoulder to scaled flank, and I talked. About nothing important, about Earth, about what rain sounds like when it hits a tin roof, about a dog I had once loved who used to sleep on my feet. On the third day, Soot ate from my hand. She did it slowly, carefully, watching my face the entire time like she was waiting for me to take it away. I did not take it away. I gave her more. Spark was the one who saved me from falling apart. In the middle of all that fear and exhaustion and defiance, Spark was busy being the most chaotic creature I had ever met. She got tangled in the medical tubing. She tried to eat a datapad, and then looked offended when it did not taste good. She figured out how to open the supply cabinet, and buried herself in thermal blankets until only her tail was sticking out, twitching happily. But there was a quiet moment too. Spark pressed her snout against my forehead one evening, and I felt something I cannot fully describe. A warmth, a hum, like a second heartbeat somewhere behind my ribs, synchronizing with mine. The imprint, Dr. Ko later told me. The psionic bond that vyrathi form with their caretakers. It was happening in real time, knitting itself into my nervous system. Dr. Ko, the station xenobiologist, came to see me on the second day. She was terrified of the hatchlings, but her scientific curiosity was stronger than her fear. She ran scans through the sealed door and her enormous dark eyes went wide. "They are bonding to you," she said. "If the bond is severed now, by separation or by their deaths, the psychic backlash could cause serious harm. To them and to you. I did not care about the harm to me. I cared that if they were terminated, they would feel me disappear. They would feel abandoned again, in the last moments of their lives, by the one person who had stayed." Commander Vasori came to my door that night. He stood on the other side and spoke to me through the metal, and his voice was the closest to gentle I had ever heard from a Helicoran. "I understand why you are doing this," he said, "but understanding does not change the law. What happens when they grow, Corporal Holt? When they are the size of warships? When this bond makes them loyal only to you?" I put my hand on the door. On the other side I could hear him breathing. "Then they will be the most loved creatures in this galaxy," I said, "and I will teach them to be gentle." He walked away. He did not give the order to breach the door that night. The enforcement team arrived on the third day, 6 Concord soldiers in full tactical gear, carrying psionic dampeners designed to shut down vyrathi neurology. Their commander was a Tarovian, a species that had lost 3 colony worlds to feral vyrathi during the scourging. His people had generational scars that ran deeper than law or logic. I understood his fear, I respected it, but I could not let it decide what happened to my children. Yes, my children. That was when I started thinking of them that way. They cut through Ren's fortifications in minutes. I stood in the doorway of the medical bay. No weapon, no armor. Just a medic's uniform with Soot's claw marks on the sleeve and Spark's drool on the shoulder. Behind me, 3 hatchlings pressed together and made that sound again, the one I had heard in the pod. That thin, lost, desperate cry. The Tarovian commander told me to step aside. I said, "You want to end 3 babies because of what they might become. I have spent my whole life watching people throw away children for the same reason. Not here, not today, not while I am standing." The dampeners activated, the hatchlings screamed, and the sound shattered every monitor in the corridor and blew out the overhead lights. And then, Ember did something that I will carry with me until the day I die. She did not charge the soldiers. She lunged in front of me, broken wings spread wide, scales raised, her whole trembling body between me and the weapons, shielding me. The way she had shielded her siblings in the pod, soot pressed against my legs, and growled for the first time. A low sound, deep and steady. A sound that said, "Do not touch her," in a language older than words. Spark wrapped her tail around my ankle and would not let go. I put my hands on Ember's flank, and the imprint blazed. Every instrument the soldiers carried went dark. Dr. Ko came running in with her datapad, shouting readings and numbers that I did not understand, but the soldiers did. The bond was not turning the hatchlings into weapons. It was stabilizing them. My presence, my refusal to leave, my stubborn human insistence on staying, it was rewriting their neural patterns. They were not becoming feral. They were becoming something that had not existed for centuries. Bonded vyrathi, stable, social, safe. The scourging had not happened because vyrathi were monsters. It had happened because no one had ever stayed long enough to love them. Commander Vasori stepped into the corridor. He looked at Ember, wings spread over a small human woman she had known for 3 days, and he said, "I will file my report, but I am not enforcing this order today." The Tarovian commander stared at us for a long time. Then he lowered his weapon. Not because he was convinced, because he was confused. And confused was a door that certainty would have kept shut. 3 months later, Ember is the size of a horse. She still sleeps with her head in my lap. She lets Dr. Ko examine her wing now, though she growls about it. Soot speaks. Vyrathi can vocalize in a way that sounds almost like words, and the first thing Soot ever said, translated roughly, was warm place. That is what she calls me. Spark has learned to open every single door on the station, and Ren has stopped trying to prevent it. She has also figured out that she can make bioluminescent patterns on her scales, and she uses this gift almost entirely to annoy Ren during his shifts. The other species on the station are adjusting. A Kreth worker left a heating stone outside my quarters last week. No note, no name. An Olvani botanist started growing a mineral-rich plant that Ember needs for her wing recovery. Nobody talks about these things. They just happen. That is how the galaxy changes. Not with declarations. With quiet, anonymous kindnesses that nobody takes credit for. I am sitting on the observation deck now, in the golden light of the Terminator line, with 3 impossible creatures sprawled around me. Ember's wing is healing. Soot is pressed into my side. Spark is chasing her own tail. My communicator chimes. It is the Concord Xenobiology Division. They have found another clutch, another abandoned pod, another set of eggs, cold and silent, and waiting for someone to come. They are asking me what to do. I look at my 3 children. I think about the word family, and how every species in the galaxy has a version of it, but none of them ever thought to use it for a creature that could swallow them whole. I key the comm and say, "Send me the coordinates," and tell them I am bringing blankets. They have 100 words for monster in Concord Standard. They will need to make room for a new one. I think the human word for it is family.